Good morning, everyone. Today's webinar is on accommodations that are built into USA Test Prep that can meet your students' different and diverse learning needs. I am a former teacher, so I will be discussing different things that I used in my classroom, and we're just going to talk about different ways that you can use the site for RTI, for IEPs, even for your advanced learners. So on the site, we have several different classroom and testing accommodations built in. Here's a list for you. So we have closed captioning, fewer answer options as a choice, multiple attempts, minimum score required. There is a Spanish option, audio recordings for read aloud, eliminating answer choices, highlighting the text, larger font sizes, spacing options, and adjustable difficulty levels. And I'm going to be showing you the different places on the site that these are available. So you can use these accommodations in our benchmark system, which gives teachers open access to our test bank of questions to build formal and informal assessments. In the assignment system, we have printable resources, online resources. We're going to focus on the videos for closed captioning, and projector-based questions and games. When you build a benchmark using USA Test Prep, once it's been created, you do have the ability to make a duplicate copy. And when a duplicate is created, it can be renamed, and the settings can be altered to meet the needs of specific students. So, for example, we could build a benchmark to meet the needs of the majority of the class. Once you've completed building that benchmark, you can make a duplicate copy of it, go back into it and change the settings. So let's say we have a co-taught class. I could then go in and change some of the settings to where if I have a student who has reduced answer options as an accommodation, I can reset that setting for that one student and then assign that benchmark to that one student. And that way they'll be getting the same questions, but they'll already have that one answer option eliminated. You can do the flip side for your gifted advanced students by creating the benchmark, making a duplicate copy, and then going in and changing a few of the questions to have a higher DOK or difficulty level. So I'm going to show you how you can make a duplicate copy of the benchmark and how you can make those adjustments. So when you have a benchmark, so you'll see, whoops, my goodness, my mouse is going crazy. All right, so we have a duplicate benchmark. So when you find a benchmark, there's an options drop-down box, and you'll just select duplicate, and that'll make a duplicate copy for you. So if you're familiar with our benchmark system, this is what it looks like with the benchmark title, the code, and then the options box. And you'll just select duplicate, and then the next thing you'll see is it'll say copy of sample assessment, and that's where you can go in and make those changes. So here are some different settings and accommodation options for benchmarks. When you go in to create a benchmark, the very first thing that you have to do is give it a name and then choose if it's going to be a shared benchmark or not. And then you'll see, my goodness, these different options here. My mouse pad is not, I'm so sorry. I'm going to use something different. All right, so you'll see here that you do have the ability to create Spanish, to have a Spanish option. So when you do this, the test will automatically populate in English, but you'll see that the students have a button at the top of the page that will translate the test for them. You can also reduce the answer options from 4 to 3, and when you do this, it will go ahead and display all 4 answer choices, but one of them will already be eliminated for the students. Okay. On the next screen, when you're building your benchmark and choosing your questions, there is a filter here on the side at the top of the page. Our default filter is random, so it's just going to sort the questions for you randomly, but you can select these other filters. So if you want to choose high or low DOK, You can choose questions that might be a little bit easier or more difficult, and then you have high or low difficulty. And the difference between these two is high and low difficulty is based on the number of percentage correct that the question's been answered on the site. So if you have a low difficulty question, this could be anywhere from 40 to 60% of all students who've answered that question have answered it correctly, where a high difficulty might be anywhere from 10 to 30% of students have answered it correctly. So you can browse through those questions. So once you've created a benchmark, this is what students will see. So this is from the student side. We've uploaded the benchmark and they've started working on it. Here at the top, you'll see the Spanish option. So you'll notice that it's automatically in English. So if a student does need it translated, they'll just click on this Spanish button and it will translate it for them. And we're going to look at this in more detail in just a few minutes. You will also see that we had the setting of number of answers per question. We changed it from 4 to 3. So you'll see that all 4 of them load, but one of them has already been eliminated. So the students know that it cannot be answer A. We do have audio built in to read the passages, questions, and answers aloud. And then we have a highlighting tool and a timer on the test. So those are great test-taking strategies that you can be utilizing with your students. We do have the highlight text tool. If this is a distraction for your students, you can click on the hide tools button and this will remove the highlighter in the timer. We do have our audio for passage and audio for question answer choices. So when a student clicks on that play button or that speaker option, a play button will come up to play the passage. And then when they select this speaker option, there is the read aloud for the question and then the answers. This is an example of when I've went through and used the highlighter. So this is showing you that students can highlight the text. And we also have an option that's built into the site that when students hover over answer choices, they have the ability to eliminate an answer. So when they choose this eliminate, it'll strike through that answer option. And if they change their mind, they just have to hover over it again. It'll say restore and it will remove that line. But if you've taught your students that test-taking strategy of eliminating answer choices, that is built into the site. This is what it looks like whenever you translate the test into Spanish. So you'll see that all the passages, questions, and answer choices are translated for your students. Another accommodation is you can print our benchmarks for your students. So if you do have students who do better with paper pencil instead of technology, you can always print their assessments. You can print their benchmark assessments. And if you've set it to where Spanish is an option, you can print it in Spanish as well. One thing that's really nice about the printing option is when you go to print, it allows you to change 3 different printing settings. So one is you can increase your font size. So you can make your font size larger. You can also change the question spacing. So if you have a student who needs more white space on their paper, you can make it to where there's several lines of white space between questions. And then you can also change your answer layout from your A, B, C, D in one column to A, B, C, D in 2 separate columns. And if you know that you're going to be using these settings the same way every time, you can click this remember option and the site will remember these settings, and the next time that you open up a benchmark to print, they will already be selected for you, but you can always change them. All right, so with assignments, videos, and projector-based resources, we have some different accommodations built in here as well. So when you go to create any assignment on the website, you'll go through all 3 of these steps, and the last step is your assignment settings. When you do assignment settings, you'll see that you have allow multiple attempts to improve score. So let's say you want your students to have 2 attempts at this assignment to improve their score. You can set this. You can also determine if you want students to meet a minimum score. If you want to do a minimum score, though, it will prompt you to say that the attempts have to become unlimited. And then you can also allow students to retry missed items. So if you want to do multiple attempts, you have up to 5 or unlimited. If you want to choose a minimum score, it will automatically make the attempts unlimited. So let's say you want students to get an 80% on an assignment. They can have unlimited attempts until they get up to that 80% to show that they have that mastery level. We also have for our assignment settings, if you're doing just random practice, you have the ability to choose random, beginner, or advanced. So for your students who may struggle with the content, it might be a good idea to start them with beginner range questions. So those are going to be your lower DOK and your lower difficulty level questions. So the site's going to sort those out and provide those for those students. If you want to do advanced, these are going to be your higher DOK questions and more difficult questions for those students. We also have added closed captioning for our videos. So when you click on any video, there is an option for show transcript, and you'll click on this and it will show the text and the closed captioning for that video. You might run into a handful that we haven't finished yet, but we do have the plan for all those to be finished very soon, but the majority of them already have the closed captioning added. And then finally, with our projector-based resources, including games, so projector-based games, review games, in the top corner, you have the ability to change the font size. So you can increase the font size for your students in the back of the room, or if you have students who might be visually impaired, you can increase that font size for them to see the question better. And now we are going to do a demo. So I'm going to log into my sample teacher account, and I'm going to show you all of these accommodations in real time and show you how you can use the site to do all of these accommodations in your classroom. Okay. All right, so this is my sample teacher page. So I'm going to start out with benchmarks. So on your teacher page, you'll click on the benchmarks tab, and you'll see these benchmarks that have been created. So let's say I want to make a duplicate copy of one of these assessments to assign it to a handful of students who need certain accommodations. I can choose, let's go with math test 1. I can choose to make a duplicate copy. It'll say, are you sure you want to? Click duplicate. And when you do this, you might have to click, let's see, let's click off of it and click back on. All right, where is it at? I'm probably just not seeing it. Math test 1. There it is. Okay, it took it a second. Math test 1 duplicate. All right, so there's my duplicate copy. So now I can go in and I can adjust the settings. So now I can change it to, do I want students to view in Spanish? Yes, I do. And do I want to change the number of answers for questions from 4 to 3? Yes. And now I've saved that benchmark. And when I assign it, I can go in and assign it to different students who need those accommodations. All right, so now I'm going to create a benchmark with you and show you some of these different abilities that are here. So we're going to call this ELA test 2. All right, so we're going to do 9th grade lit and comp. And you'll see here are these accommodations. So since I've already shown you some of them, we will go ahead and allow Spanish to be an option, but I'm going to keep my answer choices at 4. When I click continue, I have the option between basic and custom mode. So I'm going to show you custom mode so we can look at question filters. When we do question mode, with ELA, it's automatically set up to view by passage, but we're going to look at view by domain. When we do this, we're going to start with reading literary, and my standards are going to populate for me. When I expand any of these standards, I'll see this random filter here. So I can change this to again, high DOK. So this is going to sort. You'll see now when I hover over the stats icon, this question is a DOK level 3. Where down here I have a DOK level 2. If I want to load more questions, I might start seeing some DOK level 1s eventually, but right now it's giving me my highest DOK. So here's a DOK level 3 with a different passage. If I want to change it to low DOK, now I can see that this is a DOK level 2. I can start loading more questions, and I might start finding some DOK level 1s. So here's a DOK level 1. So you can sort it that way, or you can do high or low difficulty. You can also sort by, do you want a short answer option? So I'm just going to go through and hand select a couple of these questions so that we can build this benchmark and then open it up to view it together. All right, so I have created this benchmark and I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to go ahead and assign it to my students. All right, when I go through the assignment settings, remember when I get to this last one, after I've selected a start and end date, I do have this ability to set a minimum score. So if I set a minimum score of, let's say 80, it's going to tell me that unlimited attempts have been enabled, because students are going to have to be able to access the test as many times as needed to get up to an 80%. If I don't want to set a minimum score, I could say my students can have 2 attempts. So they can take this test one time, get a score, and then take it again to improve their score. All right. And if I do 1 attempt, I do have the ability to allow students to retry missed options. So if I select yes, when a student is finished with a test, it will automatically come up and let them know, you have missed this, here are your questions you missed, you want to try them again. They must attempt them again immediately, because once they finish the benchmark, they cannot retry those missed options. So if you do want them to access their missed questions, they have to do it in the same sitting. So we're going to choose no, and we're going to save the assignment. All right, so now we're going to open up this benchmark as a student and look at some of these options. So from my teacher side, I can always click on preview, and when I preview the test, it will load it for me. And here's where if I click on Espanol, it will translate the test for me. If I go back to English, if I click on the speaker icon, again, it's going to load this passage for me so I can do read aloud. If I choose the speaker option, I can read my question or my answers. I have my highlighter tool so I can highlight the text. And I do have a timer. So this is for your students who may be slower test takers and you're worried about them not being able to finish. This is a great tool to let them learn how to pace themselves. But again, if this is distracting, you can click on hide tools and they will go away. You'll notice up here at the top, you can then click on show tools and they'll repopulate for the students. If I hover over any of my answer options, I can click on this eliminate button and it will eliminate the questions. But if I really realize that Mr. Wilson is the right answer, I can reactivate it and then choose the correct answer. So these are some additional built-in testing accommodations with benchmarks. All right. So now I'm going to go back to my home screen. And with my benchmarks, I told you guys you can also print them. So in the options drop-down box, you'll click on print. You'll click on I agree. And we're going to look at printing the questions in English. When we do this, I can increase my font size. So that's my largest font. I can increase my question spacing. So when I look at this, here's my spacing, my shortest amount of spacing, medium, and then there's the most amount. So for your students who need more white space on their paper, and then you can change your answer layout to 2 columns or 1 column. All right. And now when we go into the assignments tab, if we want to create a random practice for our students, we can give it, we'll call it practice 1. When you choose practice, you'll choose the content, and then you'll choose questions, and here's where you can choose that difficulty. So you can do random, beginner, or advanced. And then you'll just go through the assignment settings. At the top of your page, here are your resources. So when you go here, if we do, I think analytic geometry, actually, let's do Algebra 1. When you do Algebra 1, you can click on the videos icon, and when you click on the link for any of these videos, you will see the show transcript, and this shows you the closed captioning for the video. So that's where closed captioning is built in. And other resources we have here, we have the projector questions. When you load anything in a projector-based question, you do have the ability to increase the font size. So when you click on play, you can change the font to a smaller or larger font size. So these are all the different built-in accommodations on USA Test Prep. So there are some that are great for testing accommodations as well as classroom accommodations. I will be here to answer any questions you guys may have, or if there's an accommodation you'd like to see again, feel free to type those questions into the questions box on your control panel. If you don't have any questions, you are able to sign out of the webinar. You will receive an email from me shortly with a copy of the presentation as well as a link to the recorded webinars, so you can refer back to those. In the email, I'll have all of my contact information, so if you have any questions, you can call or email me directly. Thank you so much for joining me, and if you do not have any questions, you may sign out, but I will be here to answer questions if you have them.